Okay, guys, this is going to be a very special show. I've been waiting for the show for a while, and we have Dr. Nasha Winters, a naturopathic oncologist. Imagine that. Yes, it does exist, and she is beautiful. And so fasten your seatbelt because we're going to learn and grow together. Okay, I know people love my music, but today we're doing a pre-record. Hello, my listening friend. It's so nice we can meet each other on the air on this beautiful, best day ever. And for those of you who are new to the Lillian McDermott radio show, I have been waiting for you. The purpose of the show is to provide a safe place where you can go to when you need a friend. It is my commitment to provide alternative ways to heal, and it is my mission to make awareness, responsibility, and truth a part of our everyday life. And I hope you, my listening as well as my viewing friends, will feel empowered to embrace a new truth and live the life of your dream. If I were to ask you, why do people get cancer? I wouldn't be surprised if there's still people, because maybe if you stumbled upon my show for the first time, but if you've been listening for one day or 7 years on my show, you'll know the right answer. But there's still people who believe that their DNA is the reason why they got cancer. Somehow, in their gene, they got a bum rap. But if I were to tell you, which I have over and over again, that you can turn on and turn off your DNA, would you do something different in your life today? What would it be? Okay, so today, not only are we giving a book away, so prepare your dials, we're going to talk to a naturopathic integrative oncologist and cancer survivor, Dr. Nasha Winters. She believes the body will give us the proper roadmap to health. She will share the Metabolic Approach, which is her book. It's a metabolic approach to cancer. And she will give us the 10 key elements that will potentially change your terrain. And since it is our sole purpose in life to give and receive love and knowledge, I am grateful that Dr. Nasha Winters is here to do just that. Welcome, Nasha, to the Lillian McDermott radio show.
Oh, wow. Really great to be here. We have been waiting for this for a long time, and I'm overjoyed that we get to share in the moment today.
Absolutely. And with that in mind, as we start diving in, before we start diving into the 10 terrain, the terrain 10, which as you call it, I would love for you to share a little bit about your background and your journey and what led you to become a naturopathic oncologist.
Excellent. It's funny that we all have a story, right? And I sort of pride myself on being a story collector in the work that I do. I see that more as my job than even quote unquote doctoring. And ultimately, doctor, docere, is teacher. So I gather in people's stories and I help turn those stories into teachable moments. So that experience of how I work today is based on basically being unheard in my own story for a very long time around my own healthcare. And I was very interested about medicine. I was in pre-med and undergrad. I thought that was absolutely my path. And thanks to a lot of health issues from a very, very young age, and one that literally threatened to take my life, I was given just a few months to live. It pushed my trajectory out of the conventional educational program and put me on a path to seek more of a mind, body, spirit approach to health and healing, which in the early 90s, I stumbled upon the concept of a naturopathic doctor and naturopathic medical school, which at that time, nobody knew what that was, right? And so I kind of embarked on a road trip to check out the few schools that were available in the Pacific Northwest, and fell in love, saw people from all walks of life, from people with second careers who were originally MDs, or even business people, or just stay-at-home parents that suddenly had their own wake-up call in their own health, in their own story that led them down this journey. And it it set my soul on fire and saved my life, frankly. And honestly, in moving into my education through naturopathic medicine, I honestly never wanted to work with cancer because I had just come out of and was still going through that story and didn't want to have anything to do with it. But as you probably share and know, because I just think you are in tune to this, the more we resist something, the more we have it come in.
Yeah. Yes, absolutely. It is absolutely true. And so today I want you to know, my listening as well as my viewing friends, by then, I don't know if the book will be available, but for my listening friends that listen live, we have the book called Integrative. Oh, wait a minute. It's the Metabolic Approach to Cancer. Yes, the Metabolic Approach to Cancer. And it's integrating deep nutrition, the ketogenic diet, and the non-toxic bio-individualized therapies. Be the seventh caller or texter, 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959. Be the seventh caller or texter and win this book. I'm really excited today because we are going to take our health back as we normally do, and we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Nasha Winters when we return worldwide at whenyounneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Perfect. Great. Now, I would like to share how you discovered that you had cancer.
You want me to share that?
Yes, off the air. All
right.
Because we're off the air now.
Yeah. Well, I actually just did my first sort of real coming out story of this recently, which just posted this week, which has been incredibly scary for me. My journey is very, very private to me, and I never shared it because I didn't want to also impact my patients' experience or to help them think, well, I got to do it just like Nasha in order to survive and thrive. But ultimately, I'm still on that journey, Lillian. I'm 27 years in from a stage 4 ovarian cancer diagnosis, and shouldn't be here today. And I'm still learning and still altering things in my terrain. And thank God for that each and every day I survive another day, I learn something new to apply to myself and thousands of others.
It's so, I was just recently told that I had a tumor in my clivus. It was incidental finding. Interesting.
Yeah.
And what I got from that, and thank God, and yesterday I went to the brain neurosurgeon, and the brain neurosurgeon called it a freckle. I'm going to call it a freckle.
I like
that. And I love that. And he said, in the last 14 months, it has not grown, and it's a tiny, tiny little thing. Let's keep an eye on it. And so right there, I've been so fortunate that every doctor that has been in my path knows, I'm not going to do surgery. I'm not going to do this. I am going to do this as natural as possible, and I'm going to work with my body like you believe as well.
Very much.
And so the good news is that if I look at it as, oh my God, this is going to kill me, it will.
Right.
But if I look at it as a freckle or something that may have been like a spot on the lens,
right.
You just never know. And it could be that the way I eat today has reduced whatever was there.
Yeah.
And instead of being at the beginning of my journey, it's the end of my journey.
Yeah.
It's the same thing. It's the same problem, but now we have a different perspective. How has your perspective changed? And I know that we're going to be, this is off the air kind of stuff. Maybe I'm going to write this down. We can do this perspective.
Great.
Because I want this for the next
segment.
For the middle, because I want people to hear privately your story.
Absolutely. I'm good with that.
Okay. Perspective on view. Because ovarian cancer, so what I was going to say is that at that moment, if I were with an oncologist, a traditional oncologist, I could have been swept away at that moment. And this is what I need to do. But because what I know, this show has been such a great teacher.
Yeah.
The longer I stayed away from it, the longer I made an informed choice that I took the information that was in front of me, the more detached I felt to whatever was growing or what was ever was in me. So anyway, I'd like to address that later on.
Absolutely.
Okay. So here we go. We're about to get started with segment 2. I can't believe it's segment 2 already. It's going to go so fast. Okay. So here we go. Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn and grow together. Today's teacher is Dr. Nasha Winters. I am so excited because today we're talking about the book, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. And so this is a roadmap that will help you heal, just like Dr. Nasha Winters takes her patients and she helps them discover their deficiencies, discover what they need, and give the body what it needs. So Dr. Winters, thank you so much for not only just coming on, but for being giving away a book. It's the 7th caller or texter, 407-373-5959.
Exactly.
Okay, there it is. It's a beautiful book. Okay. So as we, of course, for those of you who are listening, although I could call Dr. Winters, she's asked me to call her Nasha. So for those of you who are listening, she is a naturopathic oncologist. And so, I will be honest, I did not know, because I know Dr. James Forsyth, and he's an MD who's also a holistic doctor. So that was the first time I had heard that combination before. So the combination with you, how many years did you have to go to get to become an ND specializing in oncology?
Excellent. Well, I had to do my basic sciences and undergraduate prerequisites, just like anybody else matriculating into a medical school training. Mm-hmm. I spent 4 years in a residential naturopathic program and had the opportunity to do amazing clinical shifts in ERs and surgery centers and HIV/AIDS clinics and nursing homes and addiction recovery centers, as well as lots of general family practice. Neurology, I worked in a neurology office for 1.5 years after graduating. In pain management. So my experience was very vast, which was wonderful. We take the same medical boards, like our basic science boards and our postgraduate boards, just like our colleagues, just to show that we have the proper training and wherewithal not to harm another individual. Sure. And then I jumped out into private practice, general family practice for a while, and had an opportunity to do a residency with my mentor at the time. Spent 2 years doing that with my mentor. And then kind of was off on my own and running, and still, luckily, in our community, lean on each other heavily to learn and share and grow together. Wonderful. It drove me into focusing in oncology, though I resisted it, as I said before the break. It kept finding me. In fact, my first real patient in the first week I was in practice was somebody with a very aggressive brain tumor that was given days to live, and I was being there to offer end-of-life support pain management, which extended into another 18 months of survival, which was pretty incredible. He taught me a lot in that time. We journeyed pretty powerfully together, and after that experience, more and more people started to find me. In 2012, I applied for the fellowship in the American Board of Naturopathic Oncology, and that was basically showing that over a 2-year period, I had spent over 2,500 hours directly working with oncology. Mm-hmm. I had to have 3 letters of recommendation by conventionally trained oncologists to show that I had also been working with the conventional standard of care oncology, to show that I'm not an either or. Boxed in kind of person, and knew how to have the bilingual communication of an integrative and a standard of care approach. And then also from that, I had to present 10 cases and show the duration of those cases over at least 6 visits. Wow. And those pages ended up being over 200 pages by the time I submitted it for my review. And then once that was accepted, I had to sit for a board exam. And that 200-question board exam over a 5-hour period of time was pretty intensified. And basically, it was more related to standard of care. So how do I interact with the pharmaceuticals? How do I interact with the chemotherapeutics? How do I best follow the research and the knowledge of conventional care and how best to support a patient going through that? Mm-hmm. Though I will tell you, in the last few years, where I mostly saw patients who wanted me to help them through conventional treatment, we're starting to find more of a 50-50 of patients now coming and saying, I'd like to do something different altogether. And given that that was my journey of doing something different altogether, which allows me to have this conversation with all of you today, I feel very comfortable in that sandbox, as well as in the sandbox of people who choose to bring best of both worlds together.
Very good. And for those of you who are listening to Dr. Winters, Dr. Nasha Winters, you may want to be the seventh caller or texter 407-373-5959 to get the metabolic approach to cancer, and the seventh caller or texter. So let's get started, because the first thing I want to because I've shared with you before the show that Dr. Joel Fuhrman is a regular doctor on the show. Absolutely love him. But there seems to be a misunderstanding about the ketogenic diet, maybe abused, and maybe it's not a misunderstanding. Maybe there are people that are abusing this to lose weight or to not to be healthy, but to push their bodies. So let's talk about really quickly the ketogenic approach when it comes to what we're talking about today.
So historically, our bodies naturally, since the beginning of time, have gone in and out of ketosis at times where our food sources were not available to us. Mm-hmm. What that means is it prompted our chemistry to be a hybrid engine. Okay, we could easily burn fat in moments of need or easily burn sugar in moments of need. That is health. Our body's ability to adapt in any given environment. That metabolic flexibility is the hallmark of all good health and also the hallmark of longevity. Okay, but what's basically happened since the 1850s when we started to process sugar and flour is we have put all of our bodies into a sugar burning state only. All right, and stuck there. The amount of carbohydrates, we actually, before 1850, ate an average of 30% of our diet as carbohydrate. Today, it's over 70%. Big difference in a very short window of time, and our body's been unable to adapt. That amount of sugar basically turns our body into a rusted out jalopy, okay? And so when we talk about ketogenic diet, we're talking more about a metabolic state of being. There are multiple ways to become a dual hybrid burning engine versus just eating a large amount of fat. And specific to the oncology community, the myth that needs to be busted is that this is not a high animal protein diet. In fact, when you eat high animal protein, you stimulate mTOR, which is a major driver of cancer metastasis.
Yes.
So in fact, a ketogenic diet in the cancer population is actually lower protein than the average diet. Definitely far lower than what everyone believes it to be. And it can definitely be abused because you sure can reach ketosis with a high animal diet, but you can also reach ketosis as a vegan and as a vegetarian and as just simply fasting. There are multiple ways in which we can turn ourselves back into dual engines.
Okay, so because we were talking about what is causing our body, the roadmap that you look at, so how do you start that, and how did you discover this, that there was a roadmap within us?
Good. Well, mainly trial and error from myself. When you're given a few months to live and you're given zero outcomes, like my choice to take an integrative approach to actually a completely alternative approach at that time was because there were no other choices. I was sent home to die. I was too ill to even get conventional intervention. So I was on my own. So through that trial and error and through tens of thousands of patients and 2.5 decades later, I found basically 10 main drivers of what makes our bodies rust, if you will, makes our bodies age, makes our bodies break down over time. So even though this concept is the metabolic approach to cancer, it could be the metabolic approach to osteoporosis, to cardiovascular disease, to diabetes, to Alzheimer's. If you catch my drift, it's all encompassing. So the main 10 drivers that I personally found and always sort of test, assess, and address, and then readjust as needed along the path, along the roadmap, are these 10 items. Epigenetics, so what passed down to us. Blood sugar balance, which we just talked about, that we've all become sugar burners and not dual engines. Toxic burden. You know, it's not a matter of if you have toxicity, it's how much and how your body processes it. The microbiome and the GI function, which is paramount. We're just simply tubes with bodies wrapped around it. And much of our health moves from the soil of our gut. Immune function, which has really been battered over the years as we've spent years suppressing fever and taking an antibiotic for every little sniffle. Inflammation, this is the main driver of modern civilization, the inflammatory process. blood circulation and angiogenesis. Most of us spend far more time sitting on our tushes than moving about, and that has made a difference. And then stress has affected our cardiovascular health, et cetera, our oxygenation in general. Hormone balance. Oh my word. This also comes back to the toxicants, but stress and sugar also drive hormone imbalance. And then of course, stress and biorhythms. If we are sitting in front of blue screen light all day and night, and we're not following the rhythm of the season and the nature around us, we are definitely impacting the circadian rhythm and therefore the balance of our entire terrain. And then finally, but sometimes most important, the mental health aspect of all of this. Mm-hmm. So I help my patients through a quiz at the beginning of the book to help them find their priority. So there are 10 sections with 10 questions under each section to help people realize, where do I start in this mess? Okay?
Yes.
And that helps them get started on assessing their own terrain and knowing where to begin.
So I was great. I'm excited to dive into it. I hope we can get to all of it today. If not, we're going to have to do part 2. So, when I was looking at the genetics portion of it, and this was something that was a huge revelation to me starting the show with Dr. Bruce Lipton, is that we can turn on, turn off our genes, and that the epigenetics, the way our thoughts and all the things that we do can trump our DNA. The first question I see there that is, have you been positive tested for the BRCA1 or 2 gene? And what I understand for that one is that even people that are positive, 50% of them do not get cancer. Can you address that?
Yes. So I am someone who carries that gene. And that was part of why I was diagnosed at such a young age. We did not know that for still another 10 years, though, after my diagnosis. It took a while. But ultimately, BRCA status is simply how our bodies methylate. Okay. And so what that means is this methylation is based entirely on what we feed it. And that means through the food that we nourish ourselves with, but also through the people and the life experiences that we nourish ourselves with or malnourish ourselves with. And so we can simply turn on and off our genetic expression by our thoughts, by our environment, by the people we surround ourselves with, and by the foods we choose to put into our body.
Very good. Very good. So that goes along. Yeah.
And we can overcome that 50% of what people can possibly have a higher rate of cancer just by those things.
Yeah. And of course you see incredibly notorious men and women, well, I would say women, amputating parts of their bodies because they do have the BRCA gene. And it's they want to be an example, but to me, that's a very irresponsible example.
It is, because it doesn't change the soil in which cancer can grow. In fact, I've had 7 patients personally that did that prophylactic surgery that ended up with pretty aggressive cancer anyway, 2 of which ended up dying because they were so shocked because they thought, just removing these parts, I'm good. I'm totally safe. I'm totally done. No, you're just getting started. And that is what is really terrible, is that we've had the power taken away from us of what we are able to actually accomplish in changing the outcomes in our terrain.
Absolutely. And for those of you who are already intrigued and would like a copy of the book, it is the 7th caller, The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. The 7th caller, 407-373-5959, will win a free copy of this book, 7th caller or texter. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Nasha Winters when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. The epigenetics, it's like you see people that want to be an example, and the cancer industry makes them the example. Follow suit and let's make a lot of money with all these things that are happening.
So crazy.
So people that decide to do radical mastectomies still can get breast cancer. And that's what people don't understand.
And I definitely counsel a lot of women who are up against that decision. Mm-hmm. And ultimately, I support whatever they end up choosing. But I always explain to them, even if chop off those parts, there's still a lot of work to be done.
Yes.
You still have to test, assess, and address your terrain and change what is sprouting up from the soil of your being.
Yes. Dr. Lorraine Day, I don't know if you know her.
Yes.
She's been on the show quite a bit.
Awesome.
She was the first one that introduced me to the idea that cancer is more of you can heal your body naturally, even from cancer. She's a great example of that. And I remember her saying, she goes, we don't have breast cancer because we have too many breasts.
That's so good.
I was like, we don't have too many breasts. Okay, well, good. Okay, well. So speaking of the epigenetics, and I had asked the question about your perspective on ovarian cancer. How has that changed? How have you been able to live with, like what I was talking about with the freckle that I have, or that is in the speck on the lens of the camera? So it depends on perspective. How have you been able to change that as you help others change their perspective on what their situation is?
The main piece is that I recognize it is me. It is of me. It has come through me, and it's here to teach me something. Mm-hmm. And when we deny it, when we fight it, when we kill it, just like I talked about, the more you resist, the more it comes on. Yeah. That is what I've learned the most for myself. And when I was given no choice, it actually exploded my choices, if that makes sense.
Oh, yes.
Yeah. And
how beautiful is that? That's beautiful.
Huge. Yeah.
I just have to sit with that. And I hope that people, when they heard you say that, will also sit with that when we are not, and Dr. Joel Fuhrman and I, and of course, he's just like fresh in my brain. When Dr. Joel Fuhrman, we've had lots of conversations on the air, and one of the conversations led me to ask, what if there wasn't a pill? What if there wasn't a pill? And he said, people are given a pill so they can continue eating the way they were eating and acting the way they were acting. It's a permission slip.
That is so spot on. 100% in agreement.
And so because you were given no choice, it opened the door to so many other opportunities. We started the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation because I got to see this, the fact that there are people who have lots of money who don't now have this information, and some people that don't have any money that have the information but can't afford it because insurance doesn't pay for it. So the McDermott Holistic Healing Foundation, we're still in its infancy, but we're looking for donors and people to help promote the foundation so that we can pay for holistic treatment.
I love that. So needed.
Good. Yes. Okay. So when we come back on, because I see that we're ready for segment 3. We're going to have to do segment 10. Okay. So ready for segment 3. I lost this is where I talk about my show and my website, and then I will reintroduce you. Okay.
Great.
Okay. Here we go. Oh my gosh. I don't want this to end. So so here we go. I've got so many notes, by the way. Awesome. And I do want to talk about mistletoe. I want to talk about mistletoe. Okay. Because I know that you love mistletoe. Okay.
Yes, I do.
So, okay, here we go. Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn and grow together. You can hear us worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. I'm your host, Lillian McDermott, and I believe that the person in front of you knows more than you do. So be curious instead of critical. Figure out what you can learn from each person that's in front of you, because we're all teachers and we're all students. Remember, you're going to be in front of somebody else too. So just remember that we are all in this together. We all have so much to learn. Today, we are talking to Dr. Nasha Winters. She's our teacher today. And we're talking about a roadmap to health with her new book. And the book would be The Seventh Caller or Texter, 407-373-5959. Good job. Metabolic Approach to Cancer. And so this is the way you learn about your body and what your body is saying. Cancer is not a disease. Cancer is a symptom. And that is your body speaking to you that something is wrong. And so listen, listen, pause, breathe, listen. See what your body is saying. And I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com. This is where we take 100% responsibility for our life and the life that we want to live. And so I want to encourage you to go to whenyouneedafriend.com, become a subscriber. And also while you're there, please become a subscriber of YouTube, because you're going to be missing out on a lot of stuff if you don't listen to our YouTube or watch our YouTube video. So always subscribe. And when you subscribe to both the audio and the visual, will come to your tablets, your smartphones, wherever it is. And while you're there, I ask that you also follow me on all my social media. But here's the thing. If it weren't for my sponsors, this show would not happen. Please go to my sponsors page, check out my sponsors, support them the way they are supporting the show. And finally, you can listen to me on demand, iTunes, Google Play Music, iHeartRadio, Spotify, Stitcher. And again, if you need to stream this, you can stream on TuneIn or at whenyouneedafriend.com. Now, today, be the 7th caller or texter to win a free copy of Dr. Nasha Winters' book. It's called The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. Very good job. She's my Vanna White. Every time I say it, she holds the book up. And so 407-373-5959 will win the 7th caller or texter. Now, there's so much to talk about and so little time. So let's move into number 2 of our body speaking to us.
Yeah.
Okay.
And, one of the things that you and I talked about on the break was sort of my perspective change of how in my own process did I create a very different perspective about cancer, both in my own body and how to support others. And a quote that I share often, that's my quote, is, what is cancer trying to heal in you? And that, again, could be what is Alzheimer's, what is cardiovascular disease, what is diabetes. These are messengers. These are the little built-in alarm systems. One of my clients talks about this perfectly. She's like, I had years of alarms, but I ignored them. She talked about how she would, like, figuratively and literally in some ways, put the tape over the check engine light on her dashboard of her body. So when people come to me, 99.99% of the time, Lillian, they say to me that I was healthy until I got cancer.
No, they weren't.
And I'm here to tell you, thank you. Exactly.
No, they weren't.
I'm sorry, I call BS on that. And that's the place that we don't have to wait until we are a house engulfed in flames. We can check often under the hood and check often for that little ember, that little freckle, to see what it's trying to tell you and deal with it, and not wait until it's big enough and loud enough to scream at us and get our attention.
Very good. And so number 2, you talk about the blood sugar imbalance. Let's talk about that blood sugar imbalance. First, it was the genetics, and you try to look into that and what the body is saying to us. The second, terrain 10 is the blood sugar balance. So share a little bit about that so we can then move into number 3.
Sure. Well, and number 2, we already kind of talked about. That was becoming that hybrid engine. That is allowing your body to be in the natural state of the rhythm around you. We're not all meant to be grazing from sun up to sundown and in the middle of the night and have access to, loads and loads of processed foods. Quality of food is key here. So if people are ingesting even small amounts of animal protein on a ketogenic diet, I don't want them eating four-legged Superfund sites. Right? That's a no-go. It's far too dangerous to take a risk and eat those CAFO, those huge factory-raised animals and processed animals. It's also cruel to the animal itself and to the land, but it's also cruel to our bodies because those animals have been treated poorly and been fed poorly, and therefore we are what we eat, but also what they eat. So our thoughtfulness about sprinkling in more like a condiment of quality animal protein, if that is part of your dietary routine, is key. But either way, start to examine how much sugar you actually take in. I love the things like MyFitnessPal, Chronometer. We need to be eating, all of us on the planet, less than 100 grams of carbohydrate a day. But if you're dealing with cancer, that number needs to be under 50 grams of carbohydrate a day. Wow. Most of us are eating 3 days worth of sugar at breakfast. Our orange juice, our low-fat milk, our oatmeal for breakfast, just 3 days of sugar right there. So we need to test, assess, and address that and check your blood levels, hemoglobin A1C and insulin in particular. A lot of people think they're not eating sugar, and a lot of people don't think they're diabetic, but more than 50% of the United States population is already diabetic.
I eat a lot of, and that's great information. I'd never heard eat less than 100 grams of carbs a day. I've never heard that.
That's an RD nutritionist recommendation, which we know RD nutritionists are not about getting us well. Okay. They're about preventing things like scurvy, right? They're not trying to be therapeutic here. So that comes from the mouths of RD nutritionists.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
So with that in mind, I eat a lot of fruits. I eat like berries and strawberries, and I have that in my breakfast. Is that good?
It depends on how your body metabolizes the sugar. So checking your hemoglobin A1C, you want it under 5. Checking your insulin, you want it around 3. If you are doing fine with those, you're great. I can handle a pint of berries every day and it does nothing to my blood sugar. My husband looks at a raspberry and it spikes his. We have different genetic makeup. We have different epigenetics. I burn more readily as a hybrid engine. He has been stuck in a sugar burning engine for multiple generations. His family all dies off from diabetes and diabetes related illnesses. So we're all different. You have to find out what is your particular makeup.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So since we've already talked about that, let's talk about the toxic burden, because we've been doing a lot more shows on this.
Good.
So if you'd like to share a little bit about what is our aha moment, what do we need to know quickly?
Yes. Basically, you need to learn about what you're putting on, in, and around your body. Go to organizations like EWG.org, which is Environmental Working Group. There's also a website called scorecard.org, which you can actually put in your zip code and find out what toxic burdens are in your community.
No way.
I'm
going to go check that out.
Exactly. And on the EWG, you can actually go in and put in your zip code and find out what's in your city water.
No way. Okay.
And so like in my town, my beautiful little town, 7 known carcinogens and 26 questionables that are not filtered out of your city water system. We have got to be filtering our water very aggressively. A Brita isn't going to do it, folks. So those are some places that you have some control over. It's not a matter of if, it's a matter of how much. And then if you have certain epigenetics, you might process it worse than others.
Okay, I'm like stunned. I'm going to do a lot of stuff after the show today. Okay, because I want to get as many as possible.
Yeah.
And this is just a teaser for all of those of you thinking I should. It's a 1-hour show, but it's really not that long. Okay, so let's talk about number 4 is repopulating and balancing the microbiome.
Yes, we are just a gut. Hippocrates said, the gut starts, or disease starts in the gut. All of our ancient medicines state that. As naturopathic doctors, we've been poop obsessed for some time. What we don't poop, we recirculate as toxins, right? We have to put stuff in to move things through that tube, draw out the nutrients that we need, get rid of the byproducts we don't need. We have become very mixed up with that, thanks to the toxicants, thanks to things like stress, thanks to our monocropping of our food supply, which has monocropped our gut. And our health is based on gut diversity. We need more unique critters inside of us to ward off disease. And most of us have come down to just a handful, thanks to the changes in our food supply over the past 150 years.
Wow. Okay. So with that in mind, let me just ask the question, probiotic or no probiotic?
It depends. We can actually now know exactly what probiotic you need, but for the most part, most of us need some type of a probiotic, be it from fermented foods, and some type of a prebiotic, such as leeks. A lot of us don't ever think about using leeks, but that's a simple way to get the prebiotic, the food that feeds the inner food, to help you out there. So it depends on the person, but for the most part, we're all lacking and could use it.
Very good. Okay. So for those of you who are listening today and you would like a copy of Dr. Nasha Winters' book, who was co-written, it was with a nutritionist as well. It's The Metabolic Approach to Cancer. Be the 7th caller or texter, 407-373-5959. That's 407-373-5959. And so for those of you who have no clue that our body heals naturally, these are different tips to change the terrain or the dirt in your body. Don't be a fertile soil for cancer. Be a fertile soil for healing. And we're going to continue our conversation with Dr. Nasha Winters when we return worldwide at whenyouneedafriend.com. We'll be right here waiting for you. Okay, this is great information, Nasha. Okay, so we talked about the first four. We talked about the first four, and we've got the next six.
We'll blaze it.
Yes, we're going to go and the first four, is there anything that we did not talk about that you want to mention that's important?
I think we covered quite a bit. Maybe just state at this time and again at the end of the show that each of the chapters do a deep dive.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
These topics, so that if they're all like, if their hair's on fire and they're deer in headlights, they can go back and sort of sit with this and digest it at a better pace.
Yeah. Okay, so this questionnaires that you have, because each section has about 10 questions, right?
Yeah.
So when they answer this, if we answer this ourselves, we should be able to get the roadmap for our own self.
Well, you at least get an idea of where your blind spots are. And a place that might say, hey, I should probably do a little more testing on this or evaluation of this. Like the thing with sugar always shocks people. They have no idea that they are actually already diabetic or pre-diabetic until I start testing them in the office, or they have no idea that the body care products they've been using have been just like gasoline on an open fire, just fueling off endocrine disruption and toxic buildup in the body and despair on the gut and the liver, etc. So it's an aha moment when people realize, wow, I should really worry about drinking out of plastic, or wow, I should really worry about brushing my teeth with, radiator fluid, or putting chemicals on my children that's going to make my little boys have boobs by the time they're 6 years old. Things like that we don't think about. And so it really helps folks go, the questionnaire, we didn't do kind of the typical questions you'd think of for each of these topics. We wanted to help people start to realize there's other influencers that they may have never even thought of.
Very good. Very good. And as a matter of fact, I'm going to go back and I'm going to look at, because I just recently had my DNA, but I didn't even look at the BRCA. I didn't even look at it, because I just thought, I'm healthy and I'm going to continue to remain healthy, and I'm going to stay, but I am going to check this time because, I want to see what my body is telling me. I do want to see what my body is telling me. And, okay. So, this is our last segment going in, and I just cannot believe it. I think we just have to do another one. Oh, I wanted to tell you. So. I just recently changed all my makeup, my cleansers, and I don't know if you've heard of Keep Me Safe Organics.
Oh yeah,
but they are they're a part of the show.
Good.
Yes. So anybody who wants Keep Me Safe Organics can go to whenyounneedafriend.com and get 10% off their total purchase, and that's because I demand it. I want to make sure everybody has an opportunity. At the moment they think that organic or non-toxic is too much money, think again. I've had people say, how do they do it? And Keep Me Safe Organics, I don't know if you've ever heard of Keep Me Safe.
Yes, I have.
Okay, well, good. Well, if you ever need any, I can hook you up with a 10%
I love
discount.
it. That's so good and so important. Our bodies, our skin is just millions of mouths. And so thinking of that, is a key here. It's like, what are you putting on? Most of us are putting on over 5 different products before we're even done, like get ourselves dried off from the shower.
Yes.
So, again, that's just the kickoff of the day.
Yeah. And, we've heard about all these antibacterial, antimicrobial, anti-whatever. And they're basically just aging our skin and taking away all the stuff that is needed. So again, you can go to whenyounneedafriend.com. I feel like I've just done a commercial for Keep Me Safe Organics, but
we need them.
I really do appreciate what they're doing. And you can get 10% off if you go to whenyounneedafriend.com, click on the Keep Me Safe Organic logo. Okay. So it's time to get back. I see that it is time. And so let's make this one count. And I do want to get into mistletoe.
Okay.
So I want to talk about mistletoe.
I'll do it in the immune section.
Okay, perfect. Okay, so here we go. Welcome back to the Lillian McDermott radio show, where we always learn from, not just you, we always learn. Welcome to my classroom, because we're all learning together from Dr. Nasha Winters. Be the 7th caller or texter 407-373-5959 to get the metabolic approach to cancer. And, just listen to our body. Our body will always lead us to truth. Okay, so we talked about 1 through 4, and I want to reiterate that this is just the tip of the iceberg. The book has the majority of this information. We just want to get as much as we can done. Okay, so we did 1 through 4. Now let's go to 5, immune system maximization.
And so hold on, put your seatbelts on, because we're going to try and capture the rest of these before we break off here today.
Hold on.
Exactly. So the immune system, this is actually how we treat cancer. We used to think, and still do in many circles, that a cytotoxic, so basically a direct kill to the cancer cell, is the way we treat cancer. No, that is just a debulking of some of the tumor burden. But what actually cleans up the mess and keeps us in remission is our immune system. And so it's no wonder that 70% of people who've had a diagnosis of cancer will have a recurrence. Those are American Cancer Society statistics, because we brought in a cytotoxic cell treatment that also dismantled the immune system at the same time. So we didn't have our steadfast immune system to help take care of the job after it was done. There are smarter ways to do this. My favorite approach, which is well over 100 years of supporting the overall immune function and getting better outcomes if you are using conventional interventions and not using conventional interventions, is mistletoe, Viscum album extract. It is a self-administered subcutaneous injection. It's been utilized for over 100 years. It started out of Germany from the anthroposophical realm of Ida Wegman and Rudolf Steiner. And it is a very powerful immunomodulator, and it restores the overall rhythm. To me, cancer and chronic illness is just being out of rhythm with themselves and the world around them. And this medicine has a very esoteric power as well as a very physiologic power to kind of help us restore our quality of life and our rhythm within ourselves and the world around us.
Wow.
We actually have a book coming out on mistletoe the end of the year or early 2019, which we're very excited, which is a collection of 17 authors from 7 countries all over the world experiencing mistletoe in clinical practice, kind of bringing a modern update on this.
Now, you said this is self-administered, so where can we get this? I mean, is this something?
It has to be through a prescription, has to be through somebody who's been trained properly. This is not a protocol. It's geared to the individual, the rhythm of the individual, the type of plant, the different forms of it that's chosen, the dosing structure. It's all based very much on the individual, and it is adjusted accordingly. So unless a doctor has been thoroughly trained in how to use this medicine, do not do it, because it can actually be dangerous.
Is there a credential we should find on the wall for that?
You want to make sure they're anthroposophically trained. The BelieveBig.org website, our website under, I believe, services, which shows find at a provider or people that I've personally trained, and also the PAAM, which is basically the Anthroposophical Medical Association website, also has people who've been trained in using this modality.
Very good. Very good. Okay. So I want to get as many as this as possible.
Yeah.
So we just talked about the immune system. Let's talk about modulating inflammation and oxidative stress.
Absolutely.
That's a big one.
This is what, we used to all die of infections. Today we die of inflammatory diseases. So that is cardiovascular disease, all these different, even diabetes is an inflammatory process. Like I talked about earlier, sugar kicks up inflammation and rusts us. So inflammation can also be inflamed emotion. Stress causes inflammation, and we're all walking around stewing in it. So de-inflaming your life is really important to do. And there's, of course, a million different ways to approach this, but testing simple things like a C-reactive protein are huge. That also segues into the blood circulation and angiogenesis. Angiogenesis is the new growth of blood vessels to a tumor, and that is stimulated by stress and inflammation.
So they work hand in hand with one another.
They are. And actually all 10 of them do. You can't really, if you start to work on any one, you're going to likely spill over and impact the others. But when we're inflamed, we get thick and sticky blood. We get contracted. Our blood pressure goes up to try and overcome that contraction. So movement, breath, Oxygenation is key to help keep the blood circulation and angiogenesis process at bay. And then that spills into the hormones.
There we
We
go.
are swimming in a pool.
That's number 8, guys. That's number 8.
We're number 8. And exogenous hormones, you guys, is everywhere. This is why we're seeing 6-year-old girls with ovarian cancer now. This is why we're seeing 6-year-old boys with breasts. This is why every time we think we're doing ourselves a favor by drinking out of a plastic water bottle or heating our food in plastic in a microwave or handling receipts, just touching a receipt, you can check your blood levels and see estrogen shoot off the map. And then what are we doing? We're out there also filling people with exogenous estrogens, from birth control pills to steroids for treating certain conditions, which are hormones, to bioidentical hormones and conventional hormones. Those are not a good idea, okay? You need to test, assess, and address to see how your body is metabolizing the hormones you make internally, but also what you're metabolizing as it hits you from the outside world. And that also segues back in to your epigenetics. If you have a CYP1B1 or a COMT SNP, you are basically turning every single thing you experience into an estrogen soup, and you are causing yourself a lot of harm, because estrogen also kicks up blood sugar and also kicks up cortisol, stress response. All of these things will dismantle your functioning immune system and increase inflammation.
Okay, so as a bonus, after we finish the show today, I want to talk about estrogen dominance, which is a huge problem right now. And so maybe we can hold that thought and move on to number 9. We did 7. We did 7 already. We did 8. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. And number 9, in Kelly Turner's book, Radical Remission, she talks about 9 factors that basically are the common threads of people who have overcome dire consequences or dire diagnoses that are no longer using Western medical interventions. Of those 9, only 2 of them are tangible: diet and supplements. The rest live in the realm of our stress response and our mental and emotional response. And so that is what is in our control. We can't take away stress, but we can take away how we respond to it. Stress itself is the driver of metastasis. Okay. And when we're under stress, our immune system is suppressed. So nobody likes to hear this, but you have to work this muscle just like you would any other to overcome how you respond to certain situations in life, because we live in a time that is pure stress. And so how you relate to that is up to you.
Very good. Very good. And number 10, let's do it. Okay. Enhancing mental and emotional well-being. Let's do that.
And though it's the last, it should be the first. But most people go running to the hills if I start there, because it's overwhelming and sometimes scary, and sometimes the darkest, deepest parts of our existence that we need to address to really heal. You can hit every one of these 9 issues perfectly, but if you have not dealt with the mental, emotional baggage and the things that are blocking the way your psychology and your neurotransmitters move properly, you are really causing harm. You are unable to really overcome. This is the concepts that people like Dr. Bruce Lipton talk about, the biology of belief. That is also our psychology. And so we can think ourselves into disease and we can think ourselves into wellness, but we often need help in dealing with a lot of these traumas. In fact, ACE scores, like the adverse childhood events, has one of the biggest outcomes on how you are going to, what kind of health you're going to have in your adulthood. And so we have to take this far more seriously.
Oh my goodness. Okay. Okay, we can just relax now. Okay, so that was great. Thank you so much for going through the Terrain 10. And I want to encourage all of you that heard this. There's more to it in the book. Be the 7th caller or texter to win a copy of the Metabolic Approach to Cancer, 407-373-5959. And the music has started. So, Dr. Nasha Winters, thank you so much for being on the Lillian McDermott Radio Show. I have no doubt that you will be back, because you've just earned another trip into the hearts of the listeners of the Lillian McDermott Radio Show. So thank you so much.
Thank you. What a fun discussion. Thank you.
Thank you. And to you, my listening friend, remember, you can take a pill or you can take responsibility. It's time to take our health back. This is Lillian McDermott wishing you love, peace, joy, and unexpected abundance. Make it the best day ever.
ever.
I knew it was going to be the best ever. Good job. Good job. Okay. So as an added bonus, if you have time, because I know the sun is probably rising.
It's through the clouds.
It's through the clouds. Okay. So I wanted to talk about estrogen dominance, which is huge, huge, huge. What would you like to say to people that, because you mentioned no bioidentical, which I've heard, you hear all these other people, other doctors say bioidentical hormones done properly are very good for the body. And then you have other people saying, oh, no, you don't want to do it. Or if it's synthetic, you don't want to do it. So let's give a estrogen dominance 101 course if you can.
Sure. Very important. Estrogen dominance is simply being on the planet today. I've not met anybody without it in the last 15 years or so.
Okay.
So when we actually talk about true estrogen deficiency, that's less than 2% of the population, and they're very medically condition driven. Okay. That's number one. Number two, a very important take home message is that bioidentical hormones are not natural. Okay. I need people to stop that delusion. They are chemical. They are chemical modulators. The reason why we call them bioidentical is because our body believes they are us. They are so similar to how our own body makes estrogens that our body says, oh, you're one of us. But the caveat is that the exogenous bioidentical estrogens bind much more forcibly and irreversibly to our receptor sites. Okay. And our bodies are supposed to have stuff come in, do its job, and go out. Come in, do its job, and go out. That is us. Autophagy, mitophagy, day-to-day season cycles within our body. So what we've been doing since the 1940s when we introduced hormones to the medical model through things like DES and later birth control pills and later steroids and later hormones and then later bioidentical hormones and then quote unquote natural plant-derived hormones is we have been stuffing our garages, our receptor site garages, dangerously for 50, 60 years. And people's symptoms that make people think that more hormones exogenously are necessary are being misdiagnosed and misunderstood. Okay. Most of our issues around seemingly having a hormone deficiency are actually about our adrenals. Okay. We're in trouble. Our adrenals, like I talked about, stress, we live in a stress soup today. So where the real issue lies is in our adrenal function. Now, for those who do believe that you can actually use bioidentical and natural hormone therapies, they are very different from each other, safely, I have a request. If you're going to do them, you need to absolutely test, assess, and address the patient's SNPs. Number one, if you have a patient with CYP1B1, they are not metabolized.
Can you say that again? What is that again?
Yep. CYP1B1. If you have that SNP, you should be very careful. Very careful. In fact, there are a few class action lawsuits against people who got cancer from bioidentical hormones because of CYP1B1 SNPs that were able to prove it in a court of law that this does in fact drive that nail into the coffin and cause a huge mishap in the terrain. Wow. I really encourage my colleagues who use bioidentical hormones to rethink it and to start to learn more about the biochemistry of our epigenetics in relationship to this, and to start to analyze their salivary and urinary metabolites differently. We now look at them through the lens of, oh, you have too little, let's give you more. That's dangerous because, like I said, it's actually a fallacy. Most of us have way too many, but how we metabolize them and how they move in, hit their little desired mark and clear out is where our health and disease lie. Okay. And most people who use these hormones have no idea how to assess that. And that is dangerous. That is playing with fire. I would say the lion's share of my patients with cancer, women specifically, were on bioidentical hormones within a few years of that diagnosis. It's huge. I have job security because of the bioidentical hormone pushers out there. I am pretty vocal on this. I know people disagree with me vehemently. I go into a deep dive on this, but until you're sitting in my position and you see the bird's eye view that I see of so many people that never should have been put on these medications ever to begin with, I think we are playing with fire. And
So let's name it. Let's name it then.
Yeah.
Okay. So what is a bioidentical hormone? Because okay, there's the dot, there's estrine, there's all that stuff. Okay, let's talk about it.
Bioidentical is a synthetically made hormone in a lab. It's a chemical, okay, that just looks so much like your own body. That's why it's called bioidentical. Through marketing and mythology, we perpetuated a lie.
Everything.
It's a lie.
Food industry, the pharmaceutical industry, everything.
You can't even imagine how many of my naturopathic colleagues don't know this. That frightens me. Okay. I'm married to a biochemist who was a cancer drug design, who is an expert in biochemistry. He goes crazy on this, especially because he's also an epigenetics expert and teaches that to doctors all over the world. He's horrified at the lack of knowledge of people knowing how our body metabolizes the toxicants we're exposed to, and in particular, estrogen in particular. And what people don't know is things like progesterone and DHEA and even testosterone. When you have poorly functioning CYP1B1, COMT, ESR1.
So a man can have the CYP1B1?
Oh, everybody can. Men are dealing with estrogen dominance just as much as women today. This is huge.
Is that estrogen dominance what's keeping men from testosterone levels rising?
Yes and no, but testosterone is also related to sugar intake. So too much sugar will drive up testosterone high in women and lower testosterone in men. Okay. It's a continuum. Our bodies need different things at different times. It's the relationship between them. So if you're taking, like, women think their sexuality is based on testosterone levels, and it's not. It's based on this thing up here. Our sexuality and sensuality is based in our psychology and our stress response, and therefore our adrenals. And when we put testosterone and progesterone and DHEA and pregnenolone and estrogen into a woman, no matter what form, synthetic, bioidentical, or natural, and we have an imbalance in the terrain, and we have certain SNPs, and we have certain ways that the body metabolizes these things, guess what? Most of those hormones get moved into more estrogen, and a dangerous form of estrogen, the hydroxyquinones, the 4-hydroxyquinones, which are the toxic cancer-causing estrogens. When I look at women who are on bioidentical hormones, I look at their Dutch test, I look at their Meridian Valley test. None of their practitioners even know what to do with a 4OH level. And I'm looking at that, and it's just screaming at me, cancer, 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 cancer. I'm horrified. Like, my colleagues have not been trained in this and there are so many people making so much money on this industry that we're not motivated.
So what do you suggest to someone that has menopause and is going through flashes and all that?
If you're having symptoms, that's an imbalanced terrain.
Okay.
In cultures, in non-Western cultures, menopause is not a thing, right? My grandmother never even knew menopause. Like, she's like, what do you mean menopause? Like, as a disease? Like, this is a disease of modern times. Stress, adrenals. When I have women that are dealing with that, I look at their metabolites. I adjust accordingly. I help kick up certain detox pathways. Okay. When I start to adjust their detoxification pathways and start to move some of that debris out of the garages of their receptor sites, things start to calm down. And as I build up the foundation of their adrenal response, things calm way down. I've been at supporting thousands of women over 25 plus years in practice. I have never had to use hormones. My job has been helping them get off of it. I might use estriol and extreme cases topically for short durations and extremely low doses to help if there's extreme tissue damage in the vaginal area. I might have used a little bit of maybe progesterone cream or something, troche, to help them wean
from the yam.
Yeah, to wean them off of drugs, like to wean them off of. So I've used it as a means to an end, or an ends to a mean, to help shift them out of it. But ultimately, I don't have to use those approaches. And my colleagues who also think the way I do, they don't have to use those approaches. We're a minority among our colleagues. We just are. And I'm okay with it. I will take the flack. I've gotten flack for so many other things. Just add this one to the list. I don't mind. But
well,
I'm
that's
telling
interesting.
you, it's just on my end. What I see, Lillian, we are playing with fire for a lot of people.
So if you have, because we've been talking about women with menopause. So if you have a man with maybe a large prostate, low testosterone, what would you say to them?
So they're having the same problems with metabolizing their hormones. They're storing up estrogen like chipmunks storing nuts for the winter. And they're usually dealing with things like fatty liver and diabetes. Okay. So they need to address their terrain just like everybody else. So for instance, I have a client this morning, right after you, that is 70 years old, dealing with prostate cancer, has been on all the ADTs, the androgen deprivation therapies, is completely, his testosterone levels are under 3. He's completely emasculated and feels absolutely like utter crap. And when I look at his labs, he is massively into fatty liver, extremely diabetic, insulin levels off the chart, estrogen levels off the chart. And guess what? All of those things are driving his prostate cancer further. So these therapies, it's like, it's a whack-a-mole game when we put on these exogenous hormone treatments, whether they're hormone blocker therapies in cancer or whether they're, bioidentical therapies to make it a smoother transition through the disease and menopause, which shouldn't even be a thing. We are pushing down one whack-a-mole and popping up others. That's all we're doing. It becomes this game. So I say, screw that and stop doing the whack-a-mole and start to actually look under what those little whack-a-moles are popping out of and address that head on. And I have yet to find, outside of one patient I could think of in all my years, who actually had a true estrogen deficiency. It was a genetic issue. Okay. Doesn't exist.
Wow. Okay. Well, it sounds like to me, maybe we should do another show.
After you get all the hate mail for me.
No. Yeah. Not happening. Not my listeners. My listeners are smart. Once in a while I get one that will say something negative and I leave it on there because you know what, when somebody says something negative, it really is about them, not so much about me. Right. And so when you look at the world and with a negative filter, it doesn't matter what you're hearing. It's just not ready for it, That
is true.
So I'm very grateful. I'm so glad that we have this time. I'm so glad we had this time together. I'm sure you don't know who Carol Burnett is. But,
oh, heck yeah. A lot of my friends and family said I reminded them of her, especially with my short hair right now. So I definitely always got Carol Burnett.
You know how to rock the short hair, lady. So thank you so much for being a part of the show today. I'm sure that you have sprinkled lots of salt on people so to make us thirsty for more. And so let's continue this truth and let's continue having this dialogue because we've got to empower ourselves. For every one Dr. Nasha Winters, there are 100,000 doctors that say that you're wrong. And so we need to go with what resonates with the body because the body will always lead us to truth. And another thing that I always say is that the body will not forget what the mind wants to neglect. And so we need to listen to our bodies and we get to listen to our bodies. And if it resonates, we just need to be careful that it's not resonating because we want to be comfortable. You're resonating within me and it's like, okay, let's got to learn a new truth. Just when you think you know that it's safe to go into the water, right? True. Okay, I think I've quoted too many movies right now. So
I love it. I'm going to hang out with you, Lillian. This is good.
Yes. You need to come to Florida. We should do when's the next time you're in Florida?
I believe in the spring. So I will see you soon.
Yes, wonderful. Okay, because are you part of the ASIM or with Dr. Lee Cowden?
I'm not, but I will be seeing him at a conference next month in Baltimore for the WAP, the big Weston A. Price Foundation conference.
Awesome. Where's the next place where we can find you, Dr. Winters?
Golly, I just came from the IBC symposium, which is huge. I'll be at Weston A. Price. I will be at this weekend. I will be at a gut summit in San Francisco. Right after that, I'll be at the Society of Integrative Oncology, then the WAP conference, then Acres conference, which is all about biodynamic permaculture, organic living and farming, which is incredible. Wow. Which I feel excited to be a speaker as a physician speaking with farmers and ranchers. We are the same. They're the pharmacy with an F, right? Yes. And they're very important. And then in the spring, all the cancer conferences kick off. So I'm sure I'll see you guys at one of those.
Wonderful. Well, thank you so much. I am so grateful to you and all the work that you're doing. And to you, my viewers, if you like this video, please give it the thumbs up, share it. And if you don't like this video, maybe it wasn't your time. save it for another time. But please share this video. Let's let this truth resonate within all of us. And until we meet again, I'll be right here waiting for you. Thank you, Dr. Winters, and we'll talk soon.
Thank you, everyone.